How to make the best and easiest item sorter for Minecraft 1.21. These are the resources you will need for this item sorter. So anyways, let's get into it. So the first step is to dig yourself 4 blocks into the ground in kind of a line like this. Then going 2 blocks forward, place yourself a dropper facing upwards, and then place yourself a soul sand on top of this dropper, with then a hopper going into this dropper, and then a chest on top of this hopper. So what we will have to do now is build a little redstone clock that's going to power this dropper. Now there are 2 ways to do that. One is by placing 2 observers like this. However, this will make a bit of noise. So as you can hear, you will have a constant ticking if you can hear it. Or if you don't want to do this, you can also place a solar block right here, solar block right here, then another solar block right there. Then place yourself a comparator going out from this block, redstone repeater going out from this comparator, and then 4 redstone dust right here. So let's say we drop some jungle planks inside here. What will happen is that they're shot out, as you can see, and we have no constant noise. So if you want to do this instead, feel free to use this. Alright, so what we're going to have to do now is build ourselves 6 blocks going upwards to the left of this chest and to the right of it, and these can be any kind of block. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, do the same here. And then do the same with the soul sand we have right behind here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then what you want to do is head to the front right here and then place yourself glass blocks all the way up to the top right here, but leave 1 block at the top where you can fill it in with a solid block. And also you don't need to use glass right here, however it is nice watching the items fly upwards. So anyways, what you will have to do now is head behind all this and then build yourself 4 blocks going behind the soul sand we have right here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you want to expand the 2 blocks we have right here by 2 more going outwards, pretty much like that. That might have been a bit difficult to explain, but you can see what I'm doing, of course. So anyways, once you've done this, turn left and then build yourself 2 more blocks going outwards like this. So anyways, before we continue with this, we're now going to have to start placing the chests. So anyways, what we will have to do now is head to the right of this farm and then place yourself a double chest right here. Then place yourself 2 more double chests going upwards, so we will have a total of 3 double chests per items. So this means that you will be able to sort out 3 full double chests of whatever items you want sorted out. However, we're obviously going to expand this so we can have many more items. So anyways, once I've done this, expand this by 3 more double chests going forward, pretty much like this. And then once you've done this, you will need to leave a 1 block gap. So for example, place yourself some blocks in between there, and then you can place yourself 4 more double chests, pretty much like this. And also I would recommend you have a maximum of 4 or 5 double chests right next to each other. And this is of course to make sure all the items will travel safely through the water we're going to add at the end. So anyways, right now I have 8 chests, and I want to say that this is enough for this system because this is just a tutorial. However, you can easily expand it. So anyways, once you've gotten your desired amount of chests, simply head behind your item sorter or the chest you placed so far, and then place hoppers going into all of these chests. And also this amount of hoppers will probably end up costing you quite a lot of iron, so if you do not have an iron farm yet, I would highly recommend you build one, and I'll leave a link to a great one down below. But anyways, let's continue. And of course, to briefly say, if you were to expand this further out, you would simply have to place more blocks right here. For example, then have 4 chests, 1 row of blocks, and then of course more double chests going outwards. So yeah, once I've done this, head to the back of all of this again, and then going from the top hopper we have right here, build yourself 3 blocks going outwards. Then going from this middle block, place yourself 1 block going downwards, then place yourself a temporary block right here, with then a block going out from a temporary block and a block under a temporary block. Then you can destroy that temporary block. So now we should have something that looks like this behind the top hopper. So anyways, what we can do now is build the rest of the redstone before we copy this, because you're going to have to build the same thing we are building right now behind all of these hoppers. So anyways, what we're going to have to do right here with redstone is head on top of here and then place yourself a redstone repeater right here. So if you place a block on top of this hopper, the redstone repeater or comparator I mean should be looking out from this block or away from it. Then place yourself 3 redstone dust right here, and then place yourself a repeater inside this block looking towards this block, so kind of towards the hoppers. Then place yourself a redstone torch right here. So now you should have something that looks like this. So anyways, once I've done this and you have something like this, what you will have to do now is copy the same thing behind all of these hoppers. So what you can do is just expand these blocks, place yourself more repeaters, place blocks in front of them and of course in the back, redstone dust right here and redstone torches in front of these. Then just build a little roof on top of here with then of course the comparators and more redstone dust. Alright, so once I've done this, you now have one side of the system done. So what you can do now is copy the same thing over here. Alright, so once I built all the redstone, what you will have to do now is head on top of here and then place yourself some hoppers facing into these comparators. So anyways, then place the hoppers pretty much like this, and again make sure they're facing into the comparators and not down to, for example, these hoppers. So yeah, boom, like this. Alright, so once you've done this, what you will have to do now is pretty much just build a wall going all around these hoppers until you reach the end. So what I'm going to do is build a 2 block high wall in the back, and then in the front of it here I'm going to use the glass again simply because I like to watch the items kind of float through the system, but of course that is fully up to you. Then I'm going to build a solid block roof on top of here, and then once you get inside this room, what you do now is very important. So what you will have to do now is place yourself a block of packed ice between all the rows of hoppers you have, and this is of course to make sure all the items are sent through the system quick enough and don't accidentally permanently stop up and then despawn, so this is very important. I would also recommend you place yourself an ice here. So anyways, once you've done this, what you will have to do now is head into this room, and then you will have to waterlock all of these blocks. You will need at least 4 water buckets, one to place in the bottom, one to place on the second block, one on the third block, and then one on the top block. And this is obviously to make sure that all the items get pushed upwards, as you can see. So what you will notice now is that the water is going to flow towards this ice patch right here. So what you will have to do now is place yourself kind of an empty block on top of this ice patch right here. Now, if you don't understand an empty block, it's pretty much a block that's kind of invisible, if that makes sense. I'm not really sure how to explain it, but anyways, that is either, for example, a sign, a pressure plate, or for example, a button. So you can, for example, place a sign right here, and then once you have placed the sign right here, head right after the sign, and then place yourself another water source right here, and that is going to continue pushing the items. So anyways, once I've done all this, what you will have to do now is just build a roof on top of all of this, and of course, you can make the farm look a bit nicer by, for example, expanding these blocks going upwards, or adding this pillar 1 block back, for example, like this. Now, make sure to keep watching, because there are still quite a few important things we have to do, like for example fill up these hoppers with items to make sure the system works. But to briefly say, you can also build the system however you want. So if you, for example, want to have spruce logs right here instead because they look nicer, you can of course do that. So the way you decide to build the system is fully up to you, so you can do it however you want. However, what we need to do now is a very important step. So for example, what we have built so far is the actual system that will be transporting the items and of course sorting out the items. However, we have not finished a part of the system that's actually going to be sorting out all the items. So what I would recommend you do is place yourself out an anvil, then fill the anvil up with any kind of block, and then rename that block to something random you're never gonna have sent through the system, like for example this. And this is of course because these are going to be the filter blocks, and the filter blocks are very important to have, and the filter blocks need to be something that are never sent through the system, which means that you cannot use, for example, normal oak logs as the filter blocks, because if oak logs get sent through the system, they might end up breaking the system. But anyways, to use the filter blocks, what you will have to do is head into all of these hoppers that are looking towards the comparators, and then fill in the last 4 slots with one singular block. And you can do this with all of these hoppers. And once you've filled in the last 4 slots, what you will have to do now is decide what items do you want sorted out into these chests right here. So let's say I, for example, want oak logs. What I will have to do is grab 41 oak logs and then place 41 of those oak logs inside the first slot, as you can see. And then you will have to keep doing this. So if you, for example, then want to have spruce logs in this second one, simply grab yourself 4 of these filter blocks, fill them up in the last slots, and then place yourself 41 of these normal items or items you want sorted out into here in the first slot. So let's say that's spruce. Then inside here I want birch logs. And then let's say I want to have acacia logs inside here, I'll do the same thing here. So then for the test, although I've not finished this system yet, if I were to now drop the rest of these, for example, oak logs, spruce logs, birch logs, and acacia logs I have into here, what will happen is that they're sent through the system, as you can see, and they will then end up in the correct chest. As you can see, the oak logs went here, and they're sent into one of these chests. Sorry, I mean acacia. Boom, as you can see, they're going through there, and all the items are being sent up here, and then obviously dropped into the system. And one thing I want to briefly show you is that if I, for example, were to throw an anvil inside there, what will happen is that the anvil is not supposed to go into any of these chests. So what will happen is that the anvil will end up getting stuck inside this hopper, which obviously we do not want to happen because we have nothing going sent into these chests. So what you will have to do is figure out what you want sent into these 3 chests, for example, but then I would always recommend you have at least one empty kind of random chest. So what you will have to do with this chest is simply remove the redstone right here, because it's always good to have one safety chest. And by safety chest, I mean pretty much a chest that's going to pick up any items that are not inside the system. So for example, if I want to sort out these last few types of logs, for example, inside here, let's just do that quickly just to show you an example. Boom. So what I've done now is fill up with a few more types of logs, and we have nothing inside this last hopper. If I were to, for example, drop these logs into the system, what will happen is that they're obviously sent into these chests, which will happen any second now after they're shot up. As you can see, they're going through the system, and then they're ending up in the chest they're supposed to end up in. So the jungle logs are here. However, if I were to throw in, let's just say some diamonds right here, so let's just say I threw in 4 diamonds. So for example, if I then had something sorted out into this hopper, for example, let's say jungle planks, what will happen is that the diamonds would just get stuck in the corner right here and not go into this system. And that means that the diamonds we dropped off accidentally would just despawn, which is obviously not good. But instead, because we have nothing inside this hopper and no redstone behind her, what happened instead is that the diamonds went into this chest. But anyways, we have a few more things we can do to make the system a bit nicer and a bit more convenient. One is to, for example, place yourself some staircases right here, which one makes this farm look a bit nicer because you don't see the hoppers behind her. And then you can place yourself item frames on top of here, where you then place the items you have sorted out into this system. Something like this. And yeah, like I mentioned in the beginning, you can very easily customize this to have it however you want. So for example, even just doing something like this, adding a couple layers of spruce logs, makes this look quite a lot nicer. So yeah, anyways guys, that is it for this one, and that is how you build a quite easy and very efficient item sorter in Minecraft. So anyways, that is it for this one guys. Thanks so much for watching. If you have any questions about how this works or anything like that, feel free to leave them down below. I'll try to answer your questions as quickly as possible. So anyways, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.